Hey guys, Jeremy here, Milsurp Guy. We've done some more testing with our Garand and commercial ammunition. Put another 10 or 12 commercial loads together against some Milsurp ammo that I didn't able to test previously, along with some other ammunition to get a benchmark off our first test. If you haven't seen that video, you should go check it out. Results are comparable. As our first test showed, that commercial ammo is not nearly as dangerous as has been led to believe. Some of you may have seen the video that shows M2 ball against 220 grain federal, and big huge disparity in speed, and therefore M2 ball is unsafe, or is the only safe ammo, and commercial ammo is unsafe for your rifle. I've replicated that test, and you'll see that video right here. Alright, you watch that video, you got to see how fast the 220 move the op rod compared to M2 ball. The problem we have is that M2 ball is most likely Lake City 69, which is known to be specifically underpowered and underperforming as far as M2 ball is concerned. And the velocities listed is about 2,600 feet per second, which is about 200 feet below what mil-spec calls for. So when you see that video and you see those two rounds compared to each other, that doesn't speak for all of M2 ball. The other video that I made also shows that M2 ball has a very large range of velocity and muzzle velocity and op rod velocity. What I've also done is checked different types of M2 ball, and including some commercial loadings that are specifically marketed for the Garand, such as S&B or the PPU brand. And here's a video showing Lake City 69 HXP and the S&B Garand load, and you get to see the velocity just there on all ammunition that is considered safe for the Garand. Take a look and see how they perform. Alright, you see the difference there. Lake City is very slow, HXP is a little bit faster, and then S&B is a lot faster on top of that. Interesting results out of our test. I'll have a spreadsheet here and you can discuss that a little bit later. But S&B performed, compared to all the other ammunition, it's at the top of its class as far as op rod velocity. It's also in the same range as commercial ammo. I had a lot of commercial ammo that was lower than S&B. So here's a video showing S&B Garand safe ammunition shot against the same Federal 220 that we saw in the first video. Take a look at these velocities. Now, after watching that video, S&B Garand safe ammo moves the op rod at the same velocity as Federal 220 grain hunting load. What we get from that, using our method of measuring the op rod and the op rod velocity, is that the port pressure coming out of these two rounds is very similar. And what's happening is it's imparting that force on the op rod, which is moving the op rod and the bolt to the same velocity. It's telling us that the two rounds are basically giving the same amount of energy towards the op rod and the action itself. So there's no real harm in using 220 in a properly lubricated and greased and inspect rifle with a good op rod spring. Alright, take a look. Here's our chart. I'll put it on the screen for you. Don't worry, I'll be able to have a link in the description below where you can actually download it and look at it. But if you'll look at the chart, you'll see lots of loads there. The Horny Super Performance is at the top of the list. It's moving them quite along, the bolt at 26 feet per second. Then you have Horny 178 at 23.8 feet per second, and the Federal 220 at 23.75 feet per second, and then right there's your S&B at 23.7, practically the same velocity, and that was repeatable. You go down there, you have Lake City 72, some Federal 220, or excuse me, Federal 200, and Remington 150, some different Milsurp HXP, some French ammo, Liberty 100 grains at 3,500 feet per second, perfectly fine in the Garand. And then down there, coming near the bottom, is World War II Victory. It was a nice shooting load. You also have the PPU 150 4 Garands, a Monarch brand 150, which is basically PPU soft points. They performed about the same, even though the powder charges were different. So there's some more info for you. If you'll note, this chart versus the chart in my first video, the velocities are not quite the same. They don't match up. The way to speak for that is the the lubrication of the rifle, the weather that day may have not got it lubed as well, and it's caused a little extra drag, slowing some things down. But what you're looking at is the spread between the milsurp ammo and the commercial ammo. Even though the velocities aren't the same as the first video, the actual spread of range of velocity between them is fairly constant. That is the milsurp Lake City 72 is right at the top as usual, and there's commercial spread through all out the range of op-rod velocity. So again, it's not as big a deal as we were led to believe. Keep your rifle in good shape. Go out there and use your judgment. Also, in addition to that, here's another little chart that hasn't really been discussed. I'm going to put that up for you. This is actual testing from Springfield Armory in the early 60s when they were converting the Garands to 7.62 NATO. If you look there on the left, that's a 30-06 Garand. There's tested 4 of them. You have the rearward operating velocity of the op rod. It's going from 27 feet per second to 25 or so feet per second, all within the range of the ammunition that we're showing in our tests here. If you look to the right, that's the 7.62 and some issues they were having getting the correct gas port setting, short strokes and short recoil and so forth. And if you'll look, the Garands have even their chamber pressure noted, so you're averaging about 2,000 psi coming into the gas cylinder when you're shooting M2 ball. And you have a range of velocity on 4 different guns that shows that no set number is the actual max velocity that we can exceed. However, on their charts, they have a 27.5 or so feet per second op rod, which matches up with the ammo we're shooting. As long as don't find any ammo that's excessively going that speed, I still don't see our concern. Anyways, that's my video. That's my test. A little short and sweet this time. Thanks a lot for what you're doing. Like and subscribe.